Hello, and welcome to Be Indie Now, a podcast about independent game development. I'm your host, Tobiah, and with me today is Amir Littman.
Hi, how are you?
So, Amir, why do you want to make games?
Well, when I first started off thinking about games, I do enjoy playing games. I'm a hardcore gamer. But to be completely frank with you, I want to make money.
Yeah.
And I look at game development, especially indie game development, and I look around with the companies that I see that are out there, and they're raking in the cash.
Mm-hmm.
And I have in my mind, I totally understand I'm not going to be Candy Crush, nor do I want to be Candy Crush. I mean, I want to be Candy Crush, but I'm happy taking, I think it was Fanta that once said, I don't need to have all of Coke's market share. I just need to have 1% of Coke's market share. So I don't need all of Candy Crush's market share. I'll take 1/1000th of 1% of Candy Crush's market share, and I'll be a pretty happy camper. So that's, to be completely frank, my motivator.
Yeah, it's a really interesting point. I get a lot of people on the show that talk about, games are their passion. They have to make games or they die. But games are also good business. I've heard numbers that something like 2/3 of all money generated on mobile platforms is through games.
Yeah, absolutely.
And it just makes a lot of
sense.
sense.
You look at the
to me.
stores, I mean, almost 75% of all the apps in most stores are games. So there's a reason why people make games.
But it's not just a matter of, okay, I make a game and get in the store and it works, right?
That's right. That's the number one problem.
So have you made games before you started being an indie, or you just jump into it?
Never made a game in my life. I mean, I've made apps in my life and programs, but I've never made a game outside of on my Commodore 64 years and years ago when I had something. But no, so I've played them, and I've played the large catalog, the large industry games like Halo, but I have never made a game.
All right, so how did you start? Well, you had the technical background, you know how to develop apps.
Yeah, to some degree. I mean, I have some technical background. I'm not a developer by trade, so I'm more on the business side of the engagement. But I started down the path of first, in my conversations with you, thinking about what games do I like to play, and then also poking around in the Unity store. Yeah, the Unity store is a great place that you can look for pre-built applications. So what the developers and my experience in that store have done is they've published skeleton games. Some users have taken those and simply taken those exact games with the same name and literally published them into their respective stores, which I think is hysterical.
Yeah, it's funny how people are like, oh, I'll do this and then I'll be successful.
Right.
There's probably 10 other games like that.
Yeah, no, they like that, but they're literally the exact same game.
Yeah, I mean, the Flappy Bird clones. You don't hear a lot of success stories about cloning Flappy Bird.
Yes, so
people do it.
There was I think a game in the store like Star Search or something, or Star Attack, and I happened to look in the iTunes store, and I'm like, wow, this person literally took this pre-built solution in Unity and just published it as is. So my first endeavor was, I don't want to build from scratch. Is there a starting point? And so I went to the store, I looked at the starting points. I spent about $50 downloading a bunch of pre-built projects. I mean, you'd be amazed that these projects are on average between $10 to $25 each.
Yeah, it's dirt cheap from a research material point of view. It's such a great place to start because you see how the whole project works out. You see how it does the scene changes.
Exactly.
It's really a great place to learn.
And it gives you the physics of it. So, as I started clicking around, I found a coin push game. And I have actually liked playing coin push games. When I first had my iPhone years ago, I would play that coin push game all the time. I absolutely gave the coin push developer money. So I realized that when I'm thinking about the kind of game I would want to build, it had to be relatively easy. So I didn't want to build. I was thinking of initially doing a 2D side scroller, which I think would be easier, except you have to come up with the levels, and the levels are tough.
Yeah, and you didn't have any game design experience. You don't know anyone. Well, you know me, but
yeah, I know you. But I mean, 2D level design. I mean, you really spend. It's not the graphics aren't as critical as just the design of the level and the platforming, and that to me was a lot of work. So I wanted to build something that was fairly simple, that I could easily update, and that would have an immediate some level of return on investment. So as I saw this coin game, I looked at it and I said, okay, this is probably a good starting point. It's a skeleton. So what did it have? It had the push mechanism. It had a wall, and it had a floor and some coins on it. And so the game itself was functional. It did all the things you would expect a coin game to do, but it just looked like a skeleton game. So the physics was there, the components were there, but the part that really makes it valuable was not there.
Yeah.
At that point, I realized, okay, this is the path I want to go down. I want to try to take this thing to the next level. And I got together with a friend of mine who owns a software development company, and he's also an artist by trade. Mm-hmm. And so we got together and we talked about, hey, let's invest in building this game and see where it goes. So there was part of me that, because of my job, and I work with developers, and I'm constantly working with them to try to help entice them to build on the platform, I wanted to understand the experience. So
mm-hmm. I should say at this point too that Amir, you're my coworker here at Microsoft. You are also an evangelist.
Yes, I'm also a coworker.
Yep, you work about 10 feet from me down in the office.
That's right. And so, I originally thought that there's a part of me that absolutely, like, 90% of me wants to make money. The other 10% of me was, hey, look, I want to go through this process. I want to learn what it really means to build a game, from inception to creation to deployment to marketing and merchandising and maintenance, mm-hmm. all the things that come around that. And
it's all these things you don't realize. Like, you can put all together a paper list of, here's what I need to do, and when it comes down to it, there's like 30 more things you forget.
Totally. I mean, one of the I always tell this story when I talk to my friends and family about it, that what does a coin sound like when it drops? Right? I mean, the things that you don't really consider, mm-hmm. like, what does a coin sound like when it drops? What does a bridge sound like?
And it has a really critical thing. Like, the casinos in Vegas spend tons of money to make sure that coin sounds perfect, has that nice tin on nickel sound.
Exactly. And so, I spent hours going through 2-second wave files trying to figure out, what does a coin sound like? What does a Bing sound like? What do these different things sound like? So you go through that experience, and we had a very hard time modeling. One of the things I didn't take into consideration was, we're not building a flat 2D image. We're taking a 2D image of a castle and then wrapping it around something. And when you wrap it around something, you have to take consideration the camera angle that you're viewing it at versus the angle that the things are happening, and it's not always symmetrical. Mm-hmm. And so those are things that we sort of got hung up on. And as we start putting the thing together, we did pretty good job. I mean, if I look now, the game looks polished. But what we're struggling is in continuing with the updates. It's a little bit demoralizing as you spend a lot of time, energy, and money building this game, and then you're not seeing the ROI immediately. And I talk to my friends and my colleagues like yourself, and you're like, patience is a virtue.
Yeah, like, success does not happen right away. The story does not go, and then I did this, and I launched it on the store, and it's my first project, and then it was successful.
Yes, and that's exactly how I want it to go.
Let's take a step back first. What's the name of the game?
Okay, so the name of the game is Amazing Coin Push Adventure. If you just type the word coin, it'll say Coin Adventure. Mm-hmm. But when you launch it, it says Amazing Coin Push Adventure.
Cool. So you got the template, you got it there. When did it get released?
So it got released in the very end of April. It's been about almost 2 months. Mm-hmm. And I think I've made, between both platforms, Windows 8 and Windows Phone, probably close to $275 total.
That is more than what a lot of other indies make. That's not horrible. How many downloads have you gotten? Like, so far, you don't need to go tell you specifics if you're not.
No, I'll tell you specifics. I have no shame. So there's no hidden secrets here. I've gotten about 7,000 downloads combined. Mm-hmm. And I've been featured in the store a couple times, actually. So a couple times in a couple of different countries. I learned a lot about featuring. Mm-hmm. When we feature you in the store, we feature by country and by device. So you may not necessarily be featured. You may be featured in Germany, but you're featured on non-Nokia devices. So the question is, how many users in Germany are not using Nokia devices, knowing that Nokia makes up 80% of the phone market share?
Yeah, it's interesting.
Yeah.
But even with that, like 7,000 for like $250 back, that's actually by percentage pretty good.
That's what my friend was telling me. That the revenue per daily,
like I've heard some numbers that would like surprise you, and like these big titles have many millions of dollars.
Yeah,
they're only making it like a couple thousands a day, because just the way the percentages work, it's not that much.
So when I first launched the game, we didn't get hardly any downloads. And I should back up a little bit and say that the team that's building the game is me and two of the guys. I'm sort of managing the business. I'm basically product managing the game. So I'm coming up with features, requirements, and functionality. And I'm also testing and driving it. My other friend is sort of managing the development team and some of the operations. And then the third guy is acting as the main developer. So he's doing 95% of the heavy lifting is by this.
And all
guy.
you guys have day jobs too, so this is
Yes.
not like you're sitting there full time.
Right, totally. So this is stuff working on nights and weekends, which is why things take forever to get a release. We want to make a feature and it'll take us 4 weeks to get it out there because we just have to trickle it in. We'll get a build once a week and then we check it out and then I'll come up with 15 things that are wrong with it and then it takes another week. So that's been part of the challenge. And it took us from the time that we decided that we wanted to build this game, which was in December, we launched it at the end of April. So if you think about almost 5 to 6 months from inception to creation. Now, that's not because we were...
And all of that's like learning from scratch too, of like, okay, we're doing this Unity thing, and I'm trying out, what kind of templates work, what kind of, we're using different plugins.
Yes.
So like a lot of that research takes, the more time when you're first doing it. So
Definitely. I mean, a good example is plugins. So, for example... you want to make an in-app purchase. Well, you can't do in-app purchases based within Unity that call into a third-party commerce engine. So we had to buy a plugin, and which plugins we buy. We had to figure out, okay, there's this Prime 31 company, and they make these plugins, and we had to get it to work. And
which, by the way, are now free for a year. They just announced that this week, I think, as of recording. Just a side plug.
2 seconds too late for me.
Yeah.
Because I spent $500 on plugins with those guys already.
Yeah, fair enough.
But in fairness to them, and I think them is really one guy, the plugins have consistently worked. Like we haven't had any problems with them.
Yeah, no, it's great. Like the plugin store really enables so much better development because it's like, okay, I have some money, I can throw at this problem, and I can get the specific skill set I need, specific feature set. I can get NGUI, and my GUI system becomes so much easier to deal with.
And they've been that guy. I keep saying they, but I'm pretty sure it's one or two guys.
Yeah.
That guy has been really good to work with. Whenever we had a problem, we contact him, and he was pretty responsive. The Prime 31 guy. And
yeah, a lot of the plugin owners are really good. They're doing it as a full-time job, too. They're actually making a decent amount of money selling plugins.
He's not, in all fairness, the guy's not charging a lot. I mean, he was charging like $45.
No, if you consider how, like, a professional developer full-time working on just this one aspect of code,
right.
I'm sure he's being underpaid overall.
Totally. I'm not almost 90% sure he does have a day job, but because I think I looked him up on LinkedIn, but...
I was talking with Carl, the evangelist from Unity, and he was telling stories about, like, he's talking to artists, and he, like, offered them, like, work or offered them a job, and then they, like, turned him down. And he's like, wait, I'm Unity. Isn't this, like, more than what you're making right now? He's like, no. On the asset store, I'm making, like, more than that. just by focusing full-time on making assets and selling them.
I am sure. I mean, it opens up the whole dynamics of building a game, because now look, I mean, when you go from Unity to another platform, when you look at Unity as a middleware, it does provide value. But as you go from platform to platform, there still works. It's not like you can take this Unity build and click one button and out pops an iPhone app.
Yeah.
Right. So it does take some of the work off, but there's still a lot of work, which is part of the reason that I haven't moved on other platforms yet, because I want to make sure I've got this one down, and I don't want to have to support another platform right now. It's enough just to support the two that I'm supporting. So I really empathize with developers who have to support 4 or 5 platforms.
Yeah, some of the stuff you kind of have to think core because it makes your life a lot harder later on. Like if you design your GUI to be scalable to different screen sizes. I was just reading articles and talking about how like you do our GUI designs in Photoshop. We take a box and then we design the GUI around that, and that's not really how modern GUI should work because you don't know the aspect ratio anymore. You don't know the size. It's not just a matter of scaling up and down. You don't know what kind of real estate the user's going to get. So if you're talking about, a high-end experience, it's really hard to get that kind of specific nature without, thinking that way early on and a little bit of extra time to your development in order to multi-platform release.
I would say on that issue, that is probably something that Windows specifically helps a lot. because Windows 8 has this snap concept. And so you have no idea what screen resolution you're building for because, yes, the app could be full screen, but it could also be in a snap view. And we did a lot of struggling getting our game to work to where it did dynamically stretch. And at what point does the stretching look stupid? And,
Yeah, it's extra work that you had to do, but now you're going to be able to port to all platforms much more easily. I mean, talking about Windows 8 specifically, you're talking about desktops. There's so much variety in resolution on desktops.
Absolutely.
That it's, you can't make any assumptions on what kind of experience the user's going to get.
Yep. And so, when we first deployed, we were getting on average, I don't know, maybe 10 to 20 downloads a day. I don't even know how people found us. It's amazing to me that people find you, right? And the random locations that people download your game or, whatever, Sri Lanka downloads your game. I have like 4 downloads from Iraq. So, you're always amazed when your game gets downloaded.
Yeah, I mean, everything's all flat now. Like, there's people around the world who are interested in apps. Even if, you don't do any localization, any translation.
Yeah, we have
good
none.
About a world speaks English.
Totally. And we have no localization whatsoever. So, we were sort of seeing trickle in downloads. And I was very lucky that I've had a great mentor in you giving me advice. And the first piece of advice was give free coins for ratings. That one change tremendously changed the total number of downloads we were getting. Now I'm going to say it increased it by 10x. Now that it sounds like a lot. Now it went from 10 downloads a day to 100 downloads a day.
Yeah, but 10x is still a lot. A lot of the growth charts, they're very much exponential curves. You might be starting at 10 downloads a day, 100 downloads a day, and then it goes up. Like I have said to you before, my game Blast Monkeys, like 3 months in, we probably had about 1,000 active users. 5 months in, we were the #1 Android app with 6-figure active users and climbing. It's that kind of stuff. That growth builds up slowly at first. You're not going to get that spike. In fact, you kind of even don't want the spike because if you just go from 0 downloads to 10K in one day, that's probably because there's a blog featuring you, there's some advertising thing, there's something that's pushing people that's there, and it's probably not sustainable. It likely will go up and then it will go back down to whatever.
That's exactly
chart.
what happened was. I mean, we had features in the store, and we went, 1,000 downloads in one day, and then 1,000 downloads dropped back down to, 100 downloads a day.
But this is a good time to collect that information from your users. I think that's one of your next steps I've been giving you advice on as well, is that you need to figure out, okay, how sticky are these people? Are they enjoying the game? How long are they playing for? And now you have, some amount of users. I think about 7,000 people. Think about trying to get 7,000 playtesters. That is just staggering the amount of time it would take to find all those. And you can just throw up on the store and you got that. So there's no reason not to use that as your playground.
And we absolutely are. So one of the things that came out of that initial coins for reviews was our reviews went from, 1 review every 3 or 4 days to 75% of all our downloads, all of our downloaders review the game.
That is a really good metric because let's talk about how you're incentivizing too. You have a screen, you have a button that says get coins, and then on that screen there's you hit purchase buttons and click here to get some small amount of free coin.
That's right.
And so you have the user that says, I like your game, I want to keep playing, I need more coin. They're clicking it. They're going to that screen and they're clicking that button, and that's 75% of your users. It's actually not a horrible metric right there.
And, a lot of the complaints we've been getting in the reviews have given us guidance as to things we need to change. So, for example, I would say 70% of the 75% that review us give us 4 stars or better. And the ones who do, even though they give you 4 stars or better, they'll still write down this game is great, but here's the 15 things that are broken, which I always like. And most of them revolve, at least in our game, that we're not giving them enough coins fast enough. That we're doing right now 1 coin every minute. Their feedback is, you should be doing 1 coin every 30 seconds, more starting coins. So the way we're solving the starting coins, the next feature release, per my discussion with you, was, one is solving the coin generation every minute. But also adding additional areas for free coins. So we're now adding Facebook for free coins, ratings for free coins, Twitter for free coins, and survey for free coins. And this, to me, is going to truly be the test.
Yeah, survey is a really good idea. Why don't you tell people about it?
So in my last conversation with you, as I said, you've been blessed that I have you as my mentor here in this experience.
Remember, we're working like 10 feet from each other. So it's more like, you walk over 5 feet like, hey, I had a random question.
Yes, but in fairness, I only see you once or twice a month.
Yeah, our schedules, if they line up.
That's right. So one of the things that we've been struggling is, as I've been talking to Tobiah around analytics, and analytics is absolutely something that we want to do, but it's a lot of work, and even the developer we're working with doesn't know anything about it. He's even intimidated about doing analytics. And so we think it's going to be a couple $1,000 investment on our side just to get some baseline set of analytics going, because he's intimidated, so we're going to have to basically be subsidizing his knowledge. And so as an interim solution, you came up with this great idea of putting a very simple survey. We're going to have a back-end web server that's supplying 3 questions. Those questions are going to have answers that are either going to be stars, so number 1 through 5, or radial buttons of yes or no. And the questions right now are, I forgot what our questions were.
Like, how do you enjoy the game?
Yeah, are you enjoying the game? Yes or no? And what is the next feature you would want to see? Themes, action coins, or some other feature, and then we'll come up with a third question. So regardless of what the questions are, the goal is that
you'll get an understanding of what your current players want.
Exactly. We're going to get an understanding of what do they want, and we know some things of what they want because we've had people. I'd say one out of every 3,000 downloads will actually contact us. So that's what we're seeing right now. That out of the reviews we're getting, I think I've gotten out of the 7,000 downloads I think we've gotten so far, I've probably gotten 4 emails from users. And I treasure those because, that means...
for every one email you get, that means that there's hundreds of people staying silent.
Exactly, or thousands in our case. And you treasure those experiences because that person's willing to contact you, and they're willing to, if you're lucky, even respond to your next inquiry. And we've seen a bunch of people saying that our game gets boring after a period of time. And we absolutely recognize... Because I'm bored with it.
Well, that's a really good start, though. So you have this game, you get it out there, you have the core mechanic. You're like, okay, now it gets boring out of less time than you want, fairly quickly, however you want to define it. But this is a time where you experiment with that. It's a time you figure out, okay, how do I make it not boring?
That's right.
It's not about you needed to hang this back and sit on it for 6 months and think about ideas. You get it out in front of people, you get it out in the market, and people are willing to say, hey, this is a cool idea. Here, let me tell you what I want more. They're willing to participate in a survey. This is why I encourage so many developers to just get out in public already. Too many people are afraid that they have to have the most awesome, perfect release that goes on every platform,
right.
And I need to get the most potential users for my release. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter if you're only targeting less than 10,000 users for your first version, because that's still thousands of playtesters or even hundreds of playtesters that will make the game better for the eventual hundreds of thousands that you'll have the potential to later on.
I have to imagine that of all the users all the downloads we've had, we'd probably be lucky if we have 100 daily active users right now. And
but that's purely conjecturing.
That's totally conjecture. I have no idea. I'm just looking at in-app purchases.
Yeah, I wouldn't even venture to guess. If you're having 75% of users are rating, which is really, really, really high, I feel like that means that the people care about your app somewhat. People are playing it.
I definitely
they
think
might be playing it game board and quitting, so who knows how long.
I think what they're doing is they're playing it. They're running out of coins very quickly because you run out of coins quickly in this game, at least the version that's out there. They're clicking on the buy more coins, and then they're right away seeing the 25 free coins. They're doing it, and they're going to put some comment down, not realizing that whether they do it or not, they're going to get the coins. And so, yes, I do think a lot of people are playing it, but whether they're actively playing it is a different story. When I got a message from one of my users saying I've reached level 61, and I'm bored. I'm like, I didn't even know there was a level 61, right?
Yeah, that's saying something, even if he's at the 1%, right?
Right. So that's the person I want to solve that problem. Now I have ideas on what I think that is because I also like playing this game. So I am building off of my own personal experience, but But there are things that I'm tracking, around that. And another interesting side point that I would make is as to a lesson learned and I had this conversation also with some friends and family when they were looking at my game. They said, "How come the when you click for the in-app purchase and we have the different coins you can buy, why didn't I put the price down within the app?" And I tried to explain to them that I don't know what the currency will be of the person who's downloading it.
There's actually, I believe, a way to get that table, because you say this is a tier 1, this is a tier 2, this is a tier 3, and then you pull from a localization file, or there might be a server request to get it. I'm not
So
sure.
my thinking was to just avoid it outright, right? Just let the person click on it and see.
No, the problem is that like you and I are game developers. You and I understand that when you see 6 buttons, there's probably a $1, a $5, whatever. But people don't know this. People don't know if it's like 50 cents or
But
$2,
it
even though
will
it
say
can't
that.
be 50 cents.
But it will say it once they click on it, right? Once they click on it,
Yeah,
the
but-
commerce engine will do the math for me.
Yeah, but that's opting into this click. That's like click here to see the price, and people are not trusting of it. People will be afraid, like, oh, if I click that, will it automatically buy it? Well, no, it won't. But people will have that kind of fear about doing stuff, and anything you can do to eliminate a friction point, the better.
Mm-hmm.
And if you say, well, this is a $10 purchase, and they might not, oh, I'll have to click it, and then they'll only have one click away from buying it.
Mm.
But they'll not know about that $10, not know about what the offer is, and it's also a side benefit you're missing out on. Because say you have a bunch of purchases, and you have a $10, $30, $100 in-app purchase.
Yeah.
Very, very few people are actually going to get those, but it makes that $1 purchase look like a better value. It's like, oh man, no way I would spend $100 on this app, but I can get like $1 and spend this, and it makes that at $1 seem like a better value because
Well,
of how high the other purchases
What
are.
I was thinking of doing, what we're going to do is put down, maybe not put down the price tag, but put down better value, best value. And by the way, it does say that when you click on it. So if you do click on each one, you do have the ability, at least in Windows, to dynamically write down what the verbiage is.
Mhm.
So if you click on like the 500 coins, it'll say best value. If you say, do whatever, 1,000 coins, it's, ultimate value. So you do get some of that experience, but I do understand. I mean, at least we could put maybe an asterisk next to it that says, on the screen, best value or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I think that would help a little bit too, but it's not necessarily about you want to push people towards the upsell. So like people get the upsell, that's great, that's more money for you, that's that whale player, but it also makes the $1 player, feel more justified. Like I only put $1 in the game. I'm not crazy. I'm not going to put $100 in. I'll put $1 in, and so you're just as happy with that because that person might not have. If their purchases are only $1 and $5 purchases, you'll have less than if you have that whole gambit of different prices.
I mean, in our case, we do have the whole gambit of prices, but I think the problem is that you're not, especially in our game, it's not Candy Crush. You're not buying it to get to the next level. You're buying it because you want to you're enjoying the game. So if the game gets boring, there's no value to you to buy 5,000 coins because you don't care about the game anymore. So we have to
solve one problem
We have to
at a
solve
time.
that first bigger problem. And then the current thing we're thinking is, okay, we're going to have the survey thing, and we're going to see what the results are. But we're trying to weigh out, what do we look at adding the low-hanging fruit, a simple feature that will maybe get some momentum, that doesn't cost a lot of money as an investment, or do we look at putting something more complicated together so that,
A lot of times the core isn't, this game's boring, it needs more features, right? You get a core loop that's interesting, and it's just about getting that engagement chart. If you think about the moment-to-moment engagement of, like, say, a shooter game as an example. You're running around, and you are aiming with your gun, you're pointing, you have that satisfying click, and so then that half second you click, you get a response. That's one level of spike joy.
Yeah.
And then you have this moment-to-moment where you're aiming, then you actually hit, and that's like 5 seconds, and then you cleared the room, and that's every 30 seconds, and then you have to clear the level, and it's every 5 minutes, and you have these different spikes going up and down, and the point is that you want it to keep growing with fun, you want it to keep being engaging, you don't want to have lulls. You don't want to say, oh man, look how huge that spike is, and then you have to go to 5 minutes of boring. And so it's maybe less about I need a bigger spike, I need more features and more spikes, but it's more about I need just that little thing that keeps me engaged every 5 seconds.
Well, that's what I think our levels are. So what I came up with was, and it's not going to be in our survey, but I think this is one of the things that I just want to add as a feature, because I haven't seen it in any other game, is I forgot what they're called, but like a level map. You know, like you have in Candy Crush or Angry Birds, that you've passed this level, you know, here's a map, here's your little avatar, and it moves across the map as you make progress. So right now, when you move from level 1 to level 2, there's no difference. There's music that changes, and there's animation that happens, and it looks really cool, but fundamentally the game is exactly the same.
But they feel like there's more progress.
You feel like there's progress.
You feel like you completed something.
You feel like you completed something. I'm patting you on the back. Good job, you've completed level 1. But it's an arbitrary value, and it's a simply numerical value. So I don't foresee that changing. But what I thought would be good was putting a map together that says, hey, look, it's not just that we're going to pat you on the back for getting to level 1, but you really want to get to level 100. Because when you get to level 100, your character is going to go through this map, and it's going to go into the forest world and the blah, blah world and whatever world, and eventually and potentially mapping those worlds to themes. So if you want to jump into the Sandy Beach theme, you can either pass through all the levels, or you can pay me $5 and jump directly to level 100. So those are things I'm thinking of doing that give a user more reason to want to go to other levels, and they don't exist in other games. So if I look at who my competition is in the coin push realm.
Yeah, because it's really common in the match 3 realm to have that level system. But coin push has been more these casino type experiences. They're more to sit down and play, and have less of that quest like progression.
Exactly.
But
so that's what I was thinking.
People enjoy that mechanic.
They do.
It may be a different mechanic. See people talking about the coin push genre as the game that they're passionate about, right?
Right.
But that is absolutely a game that people sit down and play and genuinely enjoy.
That's right. And I think that if I can give them, if I look at my competitors, everybody does levels. Some of them also do a lot of different things you can buy all the time. You can buy this and you can buy that. So I'm still thinking of just staying with buying coins, but giving you a quest to accomplish, something to do, so that if you buy 5,000 more coins, it's because you want to play the game to get that at level organically, or you can take those 5,000 coins and trade it in. There's another part of me that's also thinking about adding more gambling aspect to it, like putting a slot machine in. So what can I use with these coins? Can I simply just move the coins around, or can I take my bucket of coins and use it for slot machines, and the slot machines allow me to do another function? So those are other things we're also thinking
Yeah,
about.
your game is, in a sense, a slot machine, right? Because you're spending coins in the hope to get coins, and the ratio works out into that you will get less coins back than what you put in.
Right, but what I was thinking
But you are generating over time.
What I was thinking was
different than real gambling.
Yeah, if you want to sort of, if you want to change it up. So my thinking was, what a lot of the other coin push games do there's a couple others that have slots. They simply do direct correlation of you're betting with a coin, and out comes more coins. So you can either use those coins to play the game more, or you can use it to play the slots more. You choose. It's basically a game within a game. What I was thinking was, you use the coin to win action coins. So I have action coins within there that one brings up a wall, others, splashes coins down on the screen, one brings up a 10-foot coin, whatever. So I can bet one coin and spin the reels in the hopes that, a wall coin pops up.
And so you can't choose which power up you get. So you get something cool.
That's right.
But it costs you a bit extra.
And it gives you another way to use the coins that faster. And
that sounds like a good way to engage people, I think. And then it's like, the limit to that is it costs more, so you have to wait longer to earn it. You definitely want to keep giving people enough coins that if they want to keep playing, they probably should. Like, at some point, if you're getting to the point where I have to wait or pay to keep playing, that might be, then they'll pay me money. But if you think about it, like less than 3% of users will ever do an in-app purchase. statistically across every game I've heard, that's pretty much universally true. So if you're talking 3% of users, that means 97% of users will get to the point where they have to wait. And if you're asking a user to wait even just 30 seconds, they're just going to quit your app.
Well, what I was thinking of doing is, so right now we're starting the users with, I don't remember, some X number of coins.
Mm-hmm.
With this new update, we will be more than doubling your starting coins just by clicking the Facebook, Twitter, and whatever. So,
Yeah, that'll help with that initial seed,
well,
too.
so what I was thinking was having reset on a daily 24-hour basis. So every 24 hours, the Facebook and Twitter reset. So if you want another 50 coins, you retweet us and you re-Facebook us.
I actually have to be careful with that because you might be breaking some Facebook policy rules.
Like what?
They have some anti-spam rules. I know in Blast Monkeys we had a tweet thing. No, was it a tweet thing or was it a Facebook thing? I think it was a Facebook thing, and then we got our account banned from Facebook because they thought we were like ominated spammer because we had so many people pressing the button. So we ended up just having to remove the feature. So
Well,
just a little bit of caution there.
God willing, I have that problem.
Yeah.
Right now, I'm nowhere near
Yeah, but
Facebook
it sucks
spam
if your
level.
Facebook account is banned because then you can't do anything on
I don't
Facebook
do
for
crap with my
months.
Facebook account, but one of the things that we've been seeing is that creating a Facebook app has taken us like 2 weeks to get verified. Like Facebook has to go and verify this app, and we can't do the Facebook integration in Unity because we're waiting for Facebook to respond to us and validate something.
Interesting.
Yeah, it was a total random thing we didn't think we'd hit. I don't.
Yeah, that's a new requirement.
It's a
I haven't
new
done
requirement.
Facebook development in a long time.
I mean,
so
this
I
all
can't
we're
really
doing
speak for
is
it.
allowing people to post a fact to do it. So that's what we were thinking. Maybe try with once every 24 hours, maybe once every 2 or 3 days.
And it makes sense because they had a large problem with spam from apps, and so they're really cautious about that kind of spammy stuff. So what you really need to do is you need to provide value to what people are posting. If you're just having them post, "Hey, here's about the game," Facebook's going to look bad on that message. But if it is, click this link and you get coin, it is, here, watch me in this
Well, that's
cool
what I'm
combo.
saying. It's click this link and get coins, right? So if you click 25 coins for posting us on Facebook, and you can do it once
No,
a day.
that's not what I mean. I mean, the Facebook post itself is, hey, come this and you will get an extra coin in Coin Adventure, or here's a code you need to enter. I know this is all technical stuff
Well,
you
let
need
me
to
ask
implement.
you a question, because none of that is possible in Windows. Okay? There's no way in Windows without creating my own backend to say, hey, look, here's a coupon code for 25 free coins, or click this link and you get 25 free coins. You can't do that in Windows development right now. I'd have to create it outside of the Windows Commerce Engine.
So let's see. It's easier to do on like a Facebook. On a mobile game, you just have to have some kind of back-end friend system. You have to do
I'd have
some
to
integration.
build a whole infrastructure around that.
It's an infrastructure no matter what you do, but it's doable, right? Like I didn't address it before, but when you say it's like thousands to do analytics. No, it doesn't take that. I guarantee you it won't. Like you might have a programmer who doesn't know, and so he's like, well, here's a really large price tag because he doesn't want to do something he doesn't know. But those kinds of features are easier than you think. I think in some ways they're easier than implementing new mechanics.
Well, one of the problems that we're having is, I'd love to go to another guy, but I actually contacted someone at Unity about this. And he's like, oh, we'll go to the forums, and find someone. Problem is you can't just randomly go to a forum and find someone. I don't know who this person is and what kind of work they do and any history of them, and I don't know them from a hole in the ground. There needs to be some type of developer contractor rating system that allows
Odesk.
Okay.
Odesk.com or Elance. There's a lot of those websites that you can hire programmers, you can rate them on how they worked before, and you're still going to get a crapshoot. You're hiring people from over the world. You're hiring people of various qualities. You find people for super cheap who are super hard
And
workers.
how do I know
great.
he's not going to take my code and do whatever he wants with it?
I wouldn't worry about it. Like, you started this game from a template, right? Like, if he takes your game and he releases it as is, you can pull a DMCA takedown. You own that IP. If he reskins it, And so he reskins it. You know,
Yeah.
the guy who like goes to the trouble to like, oh, I'm a Unity programmer, but not actually I'm stealing people's codes or copy pasting. Like that guy doesn't exist. That's such paranoid thinking. And even if he did exist, like
Right.
he's not successful at it. Like it's not going to make him any money. He's not going to, that's not a profitable business model to screw people out of downloads. And if you hire people on an hourly basis, you might get screwed where someone says, oh yeah, I can implement this. Oh wait, I had to work 20 hours on this. It's
Yeah.
like, did you really need to? Like,
I mean, so far the guy that we've been working with, he's been fairly upfront. I mean, look, I always say you can have things. There's a famous saying: you can have it fast, cheap, or good. Pick two of the three.
Mhm,
Right?
absolutely,
right,
100% true.
So he's good and cheap. I mean, overall, he's not expensive considering how far we've gone. When I show people the game, they're like, "Oh, you spent 15 grand. I haven't spent anywhere near that money." So he does good work. He's just super slow,
But-
and he's intimidated by this.
A feature like analytics is simple enough that if you figure out which one of the analytics companies that you want to integrate, whatever solution you have, there's multiple ones out there. I don't want to necessarily endorse any one of them, but you choose whatever you're going to do. You go on to Odesk, you find a Unity programmer and say, hey, here's a code base, implement this feature. I'm looking for 3-day turnaround. You'll message 15 people, go to the one who has the best ratio of good-looking profile / says they can do it, and you come to some agreement with money. I guarantee you it's going to be less than $1,000 just to implement. Here's an analytics SDK, plug and play.
But you have to know what to. I'm personally sure that you don't just take an SDK and your game and merge them together. You have to tell it what you want it to track.
Yeah,
right?
so that's what the work is really. It's plug and
But
play.
he may
to
not
have,
know. Like, hey, he's going to come to me and say, hey, okay, great, I've got these things
But so-
connected.
so-
what do I track?
This is a self-selecting group though. You're on Odesk. There are hundreds of Unity programmers out there. You hire someone who says they can do the job. You hire them for a test job. You say, hey, implement this. Here's the things I want tracked. I want tracked when the player clicks this button, when a player runs out of coins, where it is. You make a list. And just the act of making that list will be a good decision of what information I care about, what I don't. You give that list to give you the quote. You go to a bunch of different people. The worst case scenario is you hire them and they don't do the job. And so if you're like, well, this feature is going to cost me $1,000 anyway. If you hire a guy for $100 and he doesn't do the job, you never get to hire that guy again. You hire another guy for $100. You're now $200 in the hole.
But what if it's not
He does the
$100?
job.
What if it's $700?
Don't pay us $700. It's not worth that much. Like, I guarantee you can find it less. I think like you can find.
Well,
I don't know. It's top of my head. I want to say you
this.
can find someone for good $25 an hour. You can find someone willing.
$25 an hour. I mean, most good developers are going to be charging $150 an hour.
I know, but I'm saying that you can find like just to implement analytics into a game. If you find someone who's done it before, it's easy.
So I will go through that experiment, and the next time we're on this podcast,
Yeah, you tell me what the results.
I will give you my updates and my results. I will do that, this week or this weekend, and I'll.
I mean, another thing to phrase is that like, I think it's something that you can do. I know time is a resource for you, and it's hours of time of learning. But if you're the one who's going to be dealing with the results of those analytics anyway, it might be worth your time investment. If you're willing to throw $200-300 at this problem, well, instead of $300, if you threw 5 of your own personal hours over a couple weekends to, okay, how do I implement this SDK? How do I add these triggers? Because you don't have to modify any code. You just have to find the part of the code that when that event happens.
So my master plan and what I've been doing is, even in this case, even up to date, is letting this person do all the heavy lifting and then using their work as a reference for modification.
Mhm.
So for example, I had him put a welcome page in that gave me some data, and then we decided, okay, we want to change it. So I didn't have to go back to him to make the changes. So that's sort of what I'm thinking is bring someone in, have them do the initial work, and then if I want to modify it, I now have a reference point, so it's easier for me to have to build from ground up because I'm not that strong. Like I would brute force it, and I'd get frustrated, and then I'll get frustrated, and I'll give up.
So you're already in the perfect situation for you to just say, okay, I'm going to learn how to implement this add SDK. I'm going to implement these codes. It will take you longer than it would someone who's maybe even more familiar with that code base. But in the process, you become familiar with your own code base. You become familiar which functions do what. So just by taking that time to implement this feature, you're going to be touching so many different aspects that if you need to modify something in the future, you'll know it. You'll know exactly what function it is there. It might be totally worth your time. And then you can keep adding more in the future. So when you add a new feature, you want to keep track of a new analytic. You know exactly which line of code to add.
I think at least for the short term, I'm going to try to find someone first, have them put it together, and then I will use, as I said, I will take their implementation and use it as a reference and say, okay, you know what, tracking this was stupid, let's track that. So I can at least reference it against my existing code base. So that's my plan. I will go through this process. I will let you know the reality of how much these things really cost. I do think the guy I have is pretty dirt cheap. I do think
and I think that like a developer of quality, that is not a horrible rate, right? But something like an analytics solution is mostly done for you. The specifics about analytics is maybe some platform specific stuff. If you're focusing on Windows platforms, it's probably easier, and just setting in an SDK and doing web calls. In theory, the analytic companies make it as easy as possible. That's why they cost money to implement.
I mean, right now, I've talked about it with my partner, and I totally agree that we have to solve this problem. Like, we have no visibility of what's happening. We don't know if people are downloading it and playing it. We don't know how long they've been playing it. I mean, Windows gives you some of that, but it barely works. We have to solve this problem.
It's not just that like barely works, right? It's just like all you have is number of downloads.
Windows 8 tells you usage, but it barely works. Is what I'm saying. Like it'll tell me how many hours the game has been played, but it'll be aggregate, and some days it shows up and some days it doesn't. I mean, Windows is good at telling you these are the age groups and this is whether they're men or women and what country they are in, but what level are my users on? I don't know. Are they clicking the in-app purchase button and not buying anything? I don't know. Are they clicking the other themes that I've selected that I have coming soon? I don't know. So there are all these questions where my answers are, I don't know. And
once you know that, it becomes so much more clear what you need to do next.
Totally. So I've come to terms on that problem, right? I've totally recognized it. My partner and I recognize it. For us, it's just a slow slog because we've got to work with this, between the three of us, we're working off hours. We've got this guy, and he's taking forever. So
you're learning from the ground up and all these different things.
Yes, so dealing with this Facebook integration thing. So right now we're at this crawl, walk, run. We're going to get this next release out, which we know fixes 2 or 3 major issues that we've seen, and it's going to have these additional free coins components. And then we're going to, at that point, we've decided we're just going to hone in, figure out this analytics piece. So it is absolutely number one priority for me to get that going. So I have some visibility because it is very frustrating to me that I can't. And then the other piece that we're probably going to do is the Fortumo piece, which is integration for another billing commerce engine for in-app purchases around for operator billing. I did talk to them.
That's pretty critical for different markets too.
Yeah,
U.S. maybe not as much.
So for example, my game, half of the downloads are from the U.S. The other, and this is going to sound weird, half are from the U.S., 1/3 are from Thailand, and then the other 20% are from everywhere else. So
were you featured in Thailand, or are you just
never featured in Thailand? I don't know why.
You know what? Like it is entirely possible that somebody in Thailand downloaded your game, liked it, told their friends, and you're having a minor viral effect in Thailand.
It is highly possible, but I mean, we're seeing a lot of downloads in the U.S., some in Italy, UK, France, but for some reason, Asian countries like Thailand, China, those countries.
Carrier billing is definitely really
and
popular.
So that's what they told me. They're like, you're losing money by not having carrier billing because you don't realize that people are not making any purchases.
Yeah, that's important, but I just feel like getting that core loop down, getting this analytics, it's even more important because you're trying to solve the problem of, I'm not making money off these users. But if you don't even know how many users are there and how many people are getting to that spot, you don't know those numbers. You don't
I
know
agree. That to me is number one. Like, we have to solve this problem. So, one of the things you learn in doing product development, and I've done product development before, is you have a prioritization list, right?
Yeah.
So we have to prioritize and determine, priority as well as weight of that priority. So the list never stops. It's constantly growing and evolving, but I absolutely agree that this has to get solved.
So, speaking of, your priority list and, this is the critical feature you need.
Yeah.
I imagine I have a time machine. We can go back to about December.
Yep.
You have 30 seconds to tell yourself anything. Like, what do you say? Like, what do you think was your biggest learning mistake? I mean, a lot of people, there are mistakes they learn from, so you don't necessarily not want to make those mistakes. But what advice do you think that you would have liked to have then that you now know, having gone through the experience?
I would have done some more research on a developer.
Mm-hmm.
That would what I would have told myself. You know, I took a little bit of an easier path working with my friend. My friend's a great guy. He and I have known each other for 20 years, but he doesn't have any him and his company don't have too much game development experience. Neither did I. We sort of went on this together, and I think I would have told him, you know, I would have done. Let me do some more digging around. I was, as someone who wasn't in the ecosystem, finding a developer to me. You know, you said, okay, there's this company, Odesk. Well, I've never heard of Odesk until this this event to me.
Yeah.
So, you know, if you don't know those things, you don't know where to look. And so I was in a situation where I didn't know where to look, so I went to wherever I knew. I would have tried to find that out because the person that we're working with has done a great job. I mean, if you look at the game, it looks polished, it looks really nice. And I think from a straight Unity user experience perspective, the guy's a 9 out of 10. Mm-hmm. But it's the other things that, you know, as all software development are, you know, you end up specializing in different stuff. He's probably specialized in the experience and the look and feel. Everything he's done looks fantastic. I mean, top-notch, amazing-looking game. But it's the back-end components and these other little things that he just doesn't get.
And as I say about freelancers, this is not a dignity thing. It's not like, oh, you need to find the one freelancer to rule them all.
That's right.
You can have multiple people working on your project. You don't want to have like 10,000 people touching it because the code will get more junky and all that. But if you're talking about, I need to implement this specific feature and they don't have experience in that, he's going to appreciate just as much as you do having someone block it out. And then he'll learn, just like how you'll learn. Okay, that's how we get it in there.
Yeah, and that's absolutely what I'm going to do. So I'm going to spend some time this weekend looking at the Odesk stuff and you know, a couple others. And
I've had a lot of great experiences on there.
I
So
will absolutely know the results.
I've also had some not great experience, but that's great about it is just start with a small bidding, start with a small project. I would never give someone I've never hired before more than $100. Mm-hmm. Have them work for a day. If they're great, I will give them, you know, up to thousands and thousands, right? Mm-hmm. But I would never trust someone I don't have a personal recommendation to until I've kind of seen their process. Okay, how much feedback do they get me? Are they able to meet the spec? Are they delivering on time?
Yep.
And you know, you have that flexibility. You can do the small project first.
Totally, that's what I'll do.
Very, very cool. All right, so I'd like to end the show talking about games played lately. You know, not just games making. So for me, I've been playing actually a game that another coworker made called Dave in the Cave. Okay. It's a fun little game maker platforming game. He was also asking me for feedback on it when he was making it. It's like I'm known for being around game development around here, but yeah, it's really fun. Platforming, you collect some coin. It's one of those ones that like I started playing it and then I kind of like got halfway through and then I stopped. So like I kind of pulled it back up recently and started playing it again, and I didn't finish all the levels, but it's one of those ones that it has a good engagement, has a good look. He needs just a little bit more, a couple minor boring parts he'll need to iron out. It's that thing, the moment-to-moment thing where there's some levels that are just hard.
Right.
And like, yeah, it's a challenge. It's probably a challenge for him, but it isn't necessarily engaging me to play. But overall, I liked it. That and I was pulling out SimCity again, the new one. Mm-hmm. So I know it's been forever, but you know, I played that for a couple hours last week, and it was fun to go back to that. What about you? Have you been playing any games?
I haven't been playing that many indie games. I just finished Wolfenstein on the Xbox One.
Yeah, how was that one? I've been hearing a lot of good things, actually.
It's a fun game. I think some of the mechanics on gun selection suck, mm-hmm. And what I did like about it is that I could change the difficulty mid-game, so you could be playing a level, and without having, usually in the older games, if you change difficulty, you have to restart from the beginning of the game. Now you can, like, at any point in time, you can stop the game, change the difficulty, finish what you want to do, change it back. And then I'm also a hardcore League of Legends fan, so I tend to just play that constantly.
What's your character in League of Legends?
You know, you have to play it for so long, you just sort of jump.
Yeah, that's totally. You can tell that I'm not a League player. Cause that's the question I think of.
I've started playing. You know, Blizzard came out with Heroes of the Storm. So it's alpha build. I've been messing around with that one. I'm left-handed, so they don't have the ability of changing the hotkeys, which has caused me to stop playing it. So
Oh, interesting accessibility point.
totally, yeah. I
Yeah,
can't marry about the
people
hotkeys.
just forget that kind of stuff.
I know.
It's like Nintendo's actually really bad with it. Like the 3DS and the Wii games basically are unplayable by lefties a lot of the time because like
sucks.
you're required to use your right hand for the stylus, and if that you're not good with writing with your right hand,
Right.
you're gonna have a harder time.
Totally. So it's been, I couldn't play it. So I'm hoping I haven't take it out in a couple weeks and see if they have to update it.
Pretty cool. All right. So if you want to find more about the show, you can go to beindynow.com, have past episodes, show notes, cool stuff like that. If you want to find more about me, you can go to tobiahmarks.com. That's my blog. Or follow me on Twitter at tobiahmarks. Where can we find more about Coin Adventure and you, Amir?
Go to the Windows Store or the Windows Phone Store and type, Coin Adventure. You'll see it there. Amazing Coin Adventure. You can look me up on Twitter as well. I don't remember what
You don't remember your handle?
my handle, but I'm pretty sure it's Amir Littman.
All right, cool. And you can also, what's your email for?
My Microsoft email?
Yeah. Good.
It was amlitt@microsoft.com.
Well, if you want to talk about getting to the Windows Store now, you can always email me, Tobiah.marks@Microsoft as well. And yeah, we're evangelists, so we're here for.
That's right.
All right, for everyone else out there, thanks for listening, and go out and make some games.